Got to be Wastelanders! Welcome to the Lost Holotapes channel. Today we will continue to talk about the history of the capital Wasteland and analyze its conditional second stage between 2258 and 2277 after the disbandment of the Project Purity and the escape of the lone wanderer with his father from 101. Let's continue our journey through Washington. Not everyone in the Vault 101 is happy to be isolated. Between 2265 and 2267, one girl escapes from the vault and stops at Megaton. She asks a local merchant, inventor, writer, tailor Moira Brown to improve her Vault jumpsuit, but she never returned back to claim it. Before 2267, Daniel Littlehorn's mysterious mercenary guild, Littlehorn and Associates, appears in the local scrapyard. On behalf of some influential customers, they buy up the ears of characters with good karma. Yes, the exposition of this faction introduced for the mechanics of sealing ears is overwhelming with details. There is also an active group of Dominic D'Alessandro mercenaries. In 2267, Dominic D'Alessandro gives up mercenary work and settles in Canterbury. The same year, Sonora Regulators faction appears, whose members walk off by hats and played the role of vigilantes of all sorts of scoundrels and criminals. In 2268, July 12, problems with the water treatment plant started in Vault 101, just as always. The next day, in Vault 101, a group of youngsters form a gang of tunnel snakes. Of course, it wasn't a real gang, but just a group of bully kids who wanted to look cool. Around 2269, the expedition of the Children of Fathom departs from Megaton to the north and gets to the wasteland of the Commonwealth, from where, after breaking off, one group moves even further, to the state of Maine, to the Mount Desert Island. Before 2271, the family is formed. It is a cannibal commune which is forced to eat meat because of physical dependence. Apparently there is such a pathology in the world of Fallout, because of which the Wanderers are forced against their will to eat human meat and being chased by society, like X-Men in the Stan Lee's universe. The leader of the family, Vance, gathered a group of rejected people, offering them support, love and in fact family. But he didn't stop there. He wants to overcome the physical dependence of the group on human meat. To do this he turns to vampirism. Thanks to blood-drinking techniques and meditations, the group managed to overcome dependence on meat, and so the fear and shame. But blood needs to be extracted somewhere, and therefore either they are looking for packs of transfused blood, or they still have to hunt people sometimes. The family lives at the Mirage metro station, which did not live during the day. They are vampires after all. The station is constantly attacked by mirelurks from the tunnels, so the family mined all the approaches and installed barricades with traps. In 2271, in the region, a group of abolitionists was formed, which consisted of runaway slaves who created their own small settlement, the Temple of the Union. They are engaged in social activities. They help slaves escape from their masters and also provide them shelter and food. But they have very limited capabilities, since they are few in number. There are few resources even for themselves, and no one helps them in the fight against the slavers. However, they are inspired by the head of the statue of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th American president who stopped the practice of slavery. This year there is a raider attack on Canterbury, which by this time had turned from trading post into a city. One of the founders of the city dies. In 2272, another person escapes from Vault 101 and also goes through Megaton, where he tells about how everyone was brainwashed and how everyone obediently listens to the old autocrat. Three Dog founds the Galaxy News Radio, and in exchange for propaganda of exploits of the Brotherhood, he asks them for protection, and so the building becomes their second base in the region. In 2273, the raiders are conducting a second attack on Canterbury. There are victims again, but the city is fighting back. The company of Riley's Rangers is founded, whose headquarters, Riley's Rangers Compound, is located in the eastern part of Washington. In 2274, in Little Lamplight, Robert R.G. McCready, a 10-year-old boy with a dirty tongue, became a mayor of the city after breaking the nose of Princess, the girl who declared herself the leader of the city, not spending even 10 minutes on duty. Before 2275, in the wasteland, a very large and organized talent company appears, specializing in the most unscrupulous and immoral orders. As in the case of Littlehorn, they have some influential customers outside the wasteland who pay them handsomely for causing chaos in the region by attacking wanderers, Brotherhood patrols and so on. Their base is the underground bunker of Fort Bannister, the only surviving part of the military complex after the Great War. Before 2276, after the death of his father, the boy Arthur Maxon, the last living descendant of Roger Maxon, is sent to Owen Lyons for upbringing from Lost Hills. Perhaps his father died in the battle with NCR. A group of unnamed raiders establish a base in Fort Independence. In 2276, January, railroad operatives come to the wasteland to help Synth fleeing south from the Commonwealth. They create a cell in the region and establish an alliance with the abolitionists. The talents are doing their dirty work efficiently. They are destroying an unnamed settlement in the region, along with all its inhabitants, including women and children. Before October 2nd, a small settlement of Greyditch is founded, which is constantly being attacked by giant ants. On November 15th, Dr. Lasko, who studies ants, comes to Greyditch. He conducts experiments trying to reduce them in size, but having miscalculated, instead gives them the ability to spit fire. The Brotherhood in California is getting tired of Lions constantly ignoring orders, wasting resources on the war with super mutants, helping the local population and violating the Codex. They finally break off relations with them and stop sending reinforcement to the East Coast. Apparently, the Brotherhood had a chain of outposts in the regions, all over the country, allowing them to translate people from coast to coast. By the way, this can explain the presence of the Montana bunker. Although on the other hand, there is an ongoing war with the NCR in California now, why do they even have extra people to send to the east? In the camp of the East chapter of the Brotherhood, there were many who did not support the desertion of Owen, and therefore, after receiving news of the termination of support from the West, they announced their departure. This split is known as the Brotherhood Civil War. The faction split in half, resulting in the Lions chapter and the Brotherhood Outcast being established. The split sharply worsened the military potential of the both factions, but fortunately Lions has at his disposal an elite squad of Lions Pride, led by his daughter, Sarah Lyons. The Outcasts came to Fort Independence, which they had long demanded from Lions to clean up. They knock out the raiders from there and make the fort their base. They decide that since Lions is not planning to search the technologies in the wasteland, they will do it themselves, along the way trying to develop a plan to reunite with the Brotherhood in California. Before 2277, Vault 106 is finally going insane. In fact, the fate of this vault is incredibly controversial because it is not clear when it actually died and in general how events developed inside. But taking into account that in 2277 the frenzied inhabitants still somehow live inside, although judging by its appearance it has long been open and began to decay, we assume that the vault died a little earlier than 2277. A group of people established a farm of Milorks in the Anchorage Memorial, breeding them for meat and eggs. The farm was selling meat to the caravaneers, who then were delivering them to the settlements. One day the company's competitors sent mercenaries to eliminate them. The mercenaries opened the cage and the escaped animals simply tore everyone apart, including the mercenaries. Under the ruins of the overpass, the village of Girdershade is founded, consisting of only 2 inhabitants, and in Washington, the resigned wealthy mercenary Dukov settles in a hotel with a couple of mistresses. In a normal situation, I would not even consider them as settlements, but there will be an exception here since they are positioned as such by Fallout, and they are the caravan stops on the big ring of the capital wasteland. A young girl leaves the settlement of Canterbury in search of some medicine, and a group of residents led by her brother went in search for her. Looking for her all over the wasteland, the expedition is gradually dying at the hands of raiders and supermutants. In particular, they were attacked in Lenfund. They turned to Riley's Rangers and the Brotherhood for help, and the Brotherhood even allocated 1 scout for them, who however died in the mouth of a supermutant behemoth. A settlement is being created in the Yaogai caves. The original name of the settlement did not remain in the chronicle, and Yaogai destroyed it a month after its foundation. Trouble awaits another settlement in the caves. Raiders attack Little Lamplight and at least kill a gate guard. In Rabbit City there is a Saint Monica church. According to Father Clifford, if we take this story for what really happened, Saint Monica was born in the settlement of Great Atlanta. It may seem that the Great Atlanta is the city of Atlanta, but it is known that Atlanta was on the coast and Atlanta was in the depths of the state of Georgia. Saint Monica gave birth to a son, after which she was separated from him and sold into slavery. She forgave her captors and prayed. The owners took pity on her and released her after 16 years. After another 4 years, she found her son, who himself became a slave owner. He took her into slavery and mocked her, blaming her for the life he has, but she forgave him. In the end, he took pity and released her and all his slaves. Let's talk about mercenaries. Talent Company is establishing additional outposts in Satcom Array and W05A and Dry Sewer. Some mercenaries established an outpost of Old Olney in the pre-war city of the same name, but the outpost did not last long as the outpost was destroyed by the Pack of Deathclaws. Another group of mercenaries operated in the region under the leadership of Gustavo. One day they rescued Mr. Burke, the right-hand man of Alistair Tenpenny, and he offered them to become guards in his employer's tower. As for the Brotherhood, they also established several outposts and camps, including Pennsylvania Avenue, MDPL Mass Relay Station, the Mall Bunker, Lupin Circle Metro Station, as well as the Washington Monument, which is used as a transmitter for Galaxy News Radio. At the same time, the MDPL was already being seized by the Torchers gang, and another group of raiders has seized DuPont Circle. The Outcasts are also establishing an additional outpost near Satcom Array and N03D. The raider group of Tawny Trev Thor operates in the region, which pretended to be merchants. In their group there was temporarily a wanderer, Jamie Palabras, trying to find his father. He realized with horror who his companions were after they killed a family for a bag of fruit and vegetables. When they tried to rob another caravan, Jamie killed them in the back. At Warrington Station, a group of ghouls settles under the leadership of Roy Phillips. They are very angry at people, and in particular at Alistair Tenpenny, who doesn't let them live in the tower. Also, some hostile ghouls live in a gypsy village, a pylon shack and a ghoul outpost near Greenwich. Another couple of ghouls settled at Seneca Station, where they brew an ultrajet. The super mutants are spreading out across the wasteland, looking for more VIV, or as they call it, green stuff, because the supplies in Vault 87 are running out. They establish bases, outposts and camps in a bunch of locations, among which the following will have some engagement in the plot and quests. the Lincoln Memorial, the Museum of Technology, the National Archives, Falls Church, Vernon Square, L'Enfant Plaza, Hallowed Cemetery, Germantown, Seward Square, Tacoma Park, the Capitol, Bailey's Crossroads, Everglow Campsite. The rest of the bunch of locations will have the role of dungeons or exist simply to fill the wasteland. I will not list them all verbally, but they are all shown on the map, so you can pause the video and read. One not the most intellectually gifted person, Jackson, found a device in Point Lookout that creates a hologram of Professor Calvert, a still-living brain in a jar at the St. Aubin Research Institute. Jackson saw a projection of the brain in the air and considered Calvert a deity. He began to communicate with him, and Calvert realized that he could use the help of Jackson, who was eager to fulfill any orders of his new god. But he misinterpreted Calvert's speeches, which is why he was not an effective assistant. Nevertheless, he gathered around him a Punga tribe of the same fools who settled in the Arkandov Cathedral. They were growing punga fruit, which has a narcotic effect and causes addiction. The tribe grew not only at the expense of those who believed in the divinity of the token brain, but also at the expense of fruit addicts. The members of the tribe believe in the astral world, that Calvert was extracted from the physical body, left the material world, and his mind returned back to instruct the tribe. They also believe that the earth nourishes them, and therefore they had an initiation ceremony. A seeker was required to go in search of punga seeds in the sacred grove. They were guaranteed to be exposed to the action of hallucinogenic gas vaporized from the fruit, after which, in a state of delirium, they had to find a way out of the grove. In reality, the ferryman who was bringing the wanderers from the capital wasteland to the region was extracting the part of their brains responsible for inhibitors. Since the ferryman is primarily a ferryman and not a surgeon, his patients often were losing more brain functions after surgery than they supposed to, or were just dying. Also in Point Lookout, there are smugglers in Smuggler Camp. I have no idea what they are doing in Point Lookout and most importantly to whom they smuggle stuff, but some kind of local analog of Raiders for Dynamics was added to the game. They are very violent. To understand their nature, we can refer to the episode during which a member of the smugglers was caught stealing, and he, on the instructions of his own father, was executed by his own brother. As for the swamp folk, although they conditionally live everywhere, but we can distinguish a couple more of their camps, a Beachview campsite and a flooded sinkhole. Now let's talk in detail about the raiders. There are a lot of them, just a lucky swarm in the region. They take control of a huge number of locations, about 40, most of which will play the role of dungeons and fillers, and in which the protagonist cannot purposefully appear on any quest. However, there are those locations that the player will visit not by chance. They are Arlington Library, Metro Junction, DuPont Circle, Friendship Heights, Smithsonian Station, Minuteman Station, Grizzly Dinner, Hamilton Hideaway, Anacostia Crossing Station, Super Duper Mart, Fairfax, Franklin Station, Chast Acres Farm, and Arlington Bridge. At the same time, the outpost of the Car Fort is being destroyed, most likely after the attack of the Milorks who settled in the river under the bridge, as well as the L'Enfant Cafe after the super mutants occupied the entire area. The outpost in the Bailey Crossroads Metro has long been abandoned, and in the Pennsylvania Avenue/Seward Square Metro, raiders died after the Ghoul attack. All other locations marked on the map do not play any role in the history of the region, and it's plus half an hour of video. I will not read them all, please just pause the video for a minute. In addition, small raider groups appear in the region, such as Sudden Death Overtime, obsessed with hockey and Nuka-Cola, the Roxall Gang in Tepid Sewers, and Bopos Gang in Springvale Elementary. Also, Ryan Briggs' gang settles at the Jury Metro Station. Ryan Briggs was not really a raider, but an entrepreneur who tried to bring out the perfect recipe for mole rat meat and paid the raiders to guard and hunt on mole rats. However, he became the de facto leader of the gang. He had trade agreements with the Roxall's gang, which also carried mole rats to them. In Evergreen Mills in the pre-war city of McLean, a group of Madame's raiders are active. Perhaps they are hunting people in the wastelands for further resale on them to Paradise Falls. Evergreen Mills is a fairly well-equipped base, which even has its own bazaar, and the raiders are harsh enough that they managed to capture and imprison a behemoth super mutant in a cage. Meanwhile, the new leader of the Paradise Falls slavers becomes Eulogy Jones, who overthrew the cannibal Harmon. Slavers also organize an outpost in the railroad pit tunnel to monitor the surroundings and catch fleeing slaves, as well as a Lincoln Memorial, knocking out super mutants from there to prevent runaway slaves, especially abolitionists, from being inspired by the ideas of freedom. This concludes our discussion of the Wasteland for today. Next time we're talking about the gameplay part of Fallout 3 and the War of the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave, as well as what happened to the Wasteland in the future. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, subscribe, hit the bell and leave a comment. Also check all the links below. They include the Google Earth map, the lore compendium and the text version of this video, which includes the statistics of settlements and factions. That's all for today. Avoid settlements with an active nuclear bomb stuck in its main square. And see you in the Wastelands, Wanderers. Fishers out.